The Sigma-9 defense station hung like a gleaming metallic spider in the darkness of space, its 8 massive docking arms extending outward to accommodate vessels of all shapes and sizes. Area Solis guided her ship toward the central hub, her fingers dancing across the manual controls with practiced precision. The worn leather of the pilot's seat creaked beneath her as she adjusted her trajectory, compensating for the unusual weight distribution of her cargo. Sigma-9 Control, this is Earth Transport Vessel, Void Steel, requesting docking clearance, she said into the comm unit, keeping her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. There was a pause before the response came, the universal translator converting the chittering Arthran language into standard galactic English. ETV Void Steel, please transmit identification and cargo manifest. Arya tapped a sequence on the console, sending the requested data. Her eyes drifted to the holographic display showing the station's massive structure growing larger as she approached. The Sigma-9 was one of the Galactic Alliance's premier defense outposts, staffed primarily by the insectoid Arthran species, whose natural aptitude for complex systems and military precision had earned them dominance in the Alliance's defensive operations. ETV Void Steel, your credentials have been verified. Proceed to docking Arm 7, Bay 12. Acknowledged. Control. Proceeding to 712. As Arya maneuvered her ship toward the designated bay, she caught sight of her reflection in the cockpit glass, brown skin contrasting with the white pilot's uniform, dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, determined eyes focused on the task ahead. She was the newest and youngest human pilot assigned to this sector, and she knew what awaited her. The Void Steel was not what most expected from an Alliance transport. While most modern vessels boasted sleek hulls of chromatically adaptive polymers and standardized propulsion systems, her grandmother's ship was different. Its hull was an amalgamation of recovered titanium alloys and composite materials, patchworked together over decades of service. The exterior, despite being meticulously maintained, bore the honorable scars of countless journeys through asteroid fields and ion storms. But it was what lay at the heart of the ship that truly set it apart, the bioharmonic resonance engine, her grandmother's greatest invention and best-kept secret. The docking clamp secured the Void Steel with a resonant thud that vibrated through the hull. Arya completed her landing sequence, powering down the visible systems while leaving the bioresonance core in standby mode. Taking a deep breath, she straightened her uniform and prepared to face what she knew was coming. As the airlock cycled and the boarding ramp extended, Arya was greeted by a delegation of 3 Arthrans in Alliance Command uniforms. Their exoskeletons gleamed with the distinctive blue-black iridescence of their species, compound eyes taking in every detail of her approach. Welcome to Sigma-9, Pilot Solis. The central figure chittered, mandibles clicking slightly as the translator rendered the words. I am Commander Vexil. These are Officers Klatch and Terex. Arya offered the traditional Arthran greeting, crossing her forearms at the wrists. Thank you, Commander. It's an honor to serve at Sigma-9. The commander's antennae twitched, a sign of amusement among the Arthrans. Is this your first assignment with the Alliance, Pilot Solis? My first official posting, yes. I've been running independent courier missions along the Orion sector for 3 years. In that, Officer Klatch gestured toward the Void Steel, mandibles clacking in what the translator rendered as a chuckle. I'm surprised you made it through the first year. Arya kept her expression neutral. The Void Steel has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandmother designed and built most of its systems herself. Human sentiment, Commander Vexil said, antennae flicking dismissively. Fortunately, you won't be using this vessel for Alliance operations. You'll be assigned a standard F-470 transport once your orientation is complete. Actually, Commander, Arya said carefully, my assignment specifics indicate that I'm to use my own ship. The Void Steel has been registered and approved for Alliance service. The 3 Arthrans exchanged glances, compound eyes reflecting the overhead lights. There must be some mistake. Commander Vexil said, Alliance protocol stipulates standardized equipment for maximum efficiency and interoperability. There's no mistake. Commander. Arya produced her data tablet, displaying the official orders with Alliance High Command encryption. Special dispensation was granted based on the Void Steel's unique capabilities and performance metrics. Commander Vexel's mandibles twitched in obvious displeasure as he reviewed the documents. This is highly irregular, but it seems to be in order. However, I must insist on a full inspection and systems diagnostic before you're cleared for any missions. Of course, Commander, the Void Steel is at your disposal. As they walked around the ship, the Arthran officers made little attempt to hide their derision. Their chittering translator comments ranged from diplomatic concern to outright mockery. Is that an actual metal rivet? How quaint. Those thrusters look like they belong in a museum. What's that patching on the port stabilizer? Some kind of organic compound? Arya kept her composure, years of similar reactions having thickened her skin. The Alliance was built on technological conformity, standardized systems that could be easily maintained, replaced, and understood by all member species. The Void Steel, with its hybrid technologies and unconventional design, was an anomaly that threatened that comfort. What they couldn't see, what no one could see without proper clearance, was the heart of the ship. The bioharmonic engine that her grandmother had developed after decades of studying the resonant frequencies of organic matter throughout the galaxy. It wasn't just a power source, it was a living system that grew more efficient with use, learning and adapting to the pilot's neural patterns. The inspection dragged on for hours, with Alliance engineers connecting diagnostic equipment to the ship's external interfaces. Arya carefully monitored each connection through her personal datapad, ensuring they didn't access the shielded core systems. Her grandmother's paranoia had been well-founded. Twice before, corporate interests had attempted to steal the bioharmonic technology, and once, a rival species had sabotaged an early prototype, resulting in the death of Arya's parents. Your propulsion metrics are within acceptable parameters, the lead engineer finally admitted, sounding almost disappointed. Though I don't understand how you achieve that efficiency with such outdated components. Family secret, Arya replied with a small smile. Commander Vexel approached, reviewing the final diagnostic report. It seems your vessel passes our basic safety protocols, though I still have reservations. Regardless, your first assignment has been processed. He handed her a data crystal. You're to transport emergency medical supplies to the Orion outpost. They're facing an outbreak of Thalassian fever and need these vaccines within 48 hours. Arya took the crystal, sliding it into her datapad to review the mission parameters. Orion outpost. That's over 30 light-years from here. Is that a problem, Pilot Solus? The commander's tone was challenging. Arya quickly calculated the distance against the Void Steel's capabilities. At standard speeds, it would be cutting it close, 30 hours of travel time, leaving little margin for error or unexpected complications. But with the bioharmonic engine operating at optimal resonance, no problem at all. Commander, I'll deliver the supplies with time to spare. See that you do. The commander's antennae twitched. The Alliance doesn't tolerate failure, especially from independent contractors. As the Arthran delegation departed, Arya heard Officer Clatch's poorly masked comment. 40 credits says that human junk heap breaks down before it clears the system. 50 says she never even makes it to Orion, Officer Terex replied. Arya clenched her jaw but said nothing. Let them laugh. They'd see soon enough what the Void Steel could do. The loading of medical supplies was completed with brisk efficiency. Alliance dock workers casting curious glances at the unusual ship as they secured the cargo. Arya ran through her pre-flight checks meticulously, paying special attention to the bioharmonic interface that connected her neural patterns to the ship's core systems. Bioresonance initialization complete, she murmured, feeling the familiar tingle at the base of her skull as the connection established. Core temperature nominal. Harmonic frequency stable at 789 terahertz. She was about to close the boarding hatch when a sharp voice called out, "Hold there, human!" Arya turned to see two figures approaching, one a tall, slender Kindi, with the characteristic translucent skin that revealed the complex network of bioluminescent veins beneath, and the other a stocky reptile with emerald scales and vertical slit pupils. "I'm Talrix," the Kindi said, the translator rendering their melodic language into clipped, precise tones. "Chief engineer assigned to verify your systems during transit." "And I'm Security Officer Dran," the reptile added, tail swishing in obvious annoyance. "I'm here to ensure the cargo reaches its destination, regardless of the vessel's limitations." Arya recognized the situation immediately. They were sending babysitters, either out of genuine concern or, more likely, to document when her ship inevitably failed. "Welcome aboard," she said with forced politeness. "I'm afraid accommodations are limited. The Void Steel wasn't designed for passengers." "We'll manage," Dran said, reptilian eyes scanning the ship's interior with obvious disdain. "Let's just get this over with." As Talrix and Dran stored their minimal gear in the crew quarters, Arya returned to the cockpit and initiated the launch sequence. The familiar vibration of the engines starting up brought a smile to her face, a feeling like coming home. "Sigma 9 Control, this is ETV Void Steel, requesting departure clearance." "Clearance granted, ETV Void Steel. Be advised, meteorological sensors indicate an ion storm forming in Sector 9 of your route. Recommend altering course to avoid." "Acknowledged, Control. Will adjust trajectory accordingly." Arya guided the ship away from the station, aware of Talrix and Dran entering the cockpit behind her. "This interface is archaic," Talrix observed, long fingers hovering over the manual controls. "How do you achieve precise navigational calculations with analog systems?" "I don't need fancy holographic interfaces," Arya replied, not taking her eyes off the view screen. "The Void Steel and I understand each other." Dran gave a skeptical snort. "You talk about this pile of metal like it's alive." Arya just smiled. "You might want to secure yourselves. We're about to jump to light speed." As they cleared the station's security perimeter, Arya increased power to the conventional drive systems, giving the appearance of a standard acceleration sequence. Once they were safely away from monitoring sensors, she placed her hand on the bio-interface panel. "Initiating full resonance," she said quietly. The ship hummed, a subtle vibration that started at the core and rippled outward. It wasn't the harsh, mechanical rumble of standard engines, but something more organic, like the purr of a massive cat. Talrix's head snapped up, translucent skin pulsing with surprise. "That resonance pattern? It's not standard drive technology." Arya didn't respond directly. "Transitioning to FTL in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside streaked into lines as the Void Steel leaped forward. But there was none of the usual disorientation that accompanied light-speed transitions. Instead, the ship moved through the fabric of space with an almost liquid grace. "Impossible," Talrix whispered, bioluminescent veins flashing with agitation. "Our transition metrics should be causing at least 0.7 Gs of stress, but I barely felt it." "What kind of engines are you running?" Dran demanded, tail twitching with suspicion. "As I said, family design." Arya adjusted their course slightly to account for the reported ion storm. "We should reach the Orion outpost in approximately 26 hours, barring any complications." 26? The standard transit time for this distance is 30 hours minimum. Dran said, "Standard for Alliance vessels, maybe." Arya couldn't help the pride in her voice. The Void Steel operates on different principles. For the next several hours, they traveled in relative silence. Talrix spent most of the time scanning the ship's systems with increasingly sophisticated equipment, while Dran kept a watchful eye on both Arya and the engineer. "Your power distribution doesn't make sense," Talrix finally said, setting down a scanner in frustration. "You're generating more output than your fuel consumption should allow." "Efficient design," Arya replied. "No, it's more than that." Talrix's translucent fingers tapped rapidly on a datapad. "There's an energy signature I can't identify. Something organic?" Arya tensed slightly. The Kindi were known for their sensitivity to biological energy patterns. It was what made them exceptional engineers for living systems. She should have anticipated that Talrix might sense the bioharmonic core. The void steel incorporates some biological components, she admitted carefully. My grandmother experimented with hybrid technologies. Hybrid technologies are strictly regulated, Dran interjected, eyes narrowing to slits. All biological enhancements must be registered with the Alliance Biotechnology Commission. And they are, Arya assured him, though the registration was deliberately vague on specifics. Everything on this ship is legal and approved. The conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm from the navigation console. Arya's hands flew to the controls, eyes scanning the readouts. What is it? Dran demanded, moving to look over her shoulder. Multiple vessels appearing on long-range sensors, Arya replied, adjusting the scan parameters. 7, no. 8 ships in attack formation. Pirates? Talrix asked, skin paling to a ghostly white. Most likely. Arya expanded the tactical display. This route skirts the edge of the Helios Nebula. The Scarlet Shroud operates in this sector. The Scarlet Shroud was one of the most notorious pirate collectives in the quadrant, composed of outcasts from various species who preyed on transport vessels and smaller outposts. They were known for their advanced jamming technology and brutal efficiency. We should drop out of light speed and contact Alliance patrol vessels, Dran said, reaching for the communication controls. Arya caught his wrist. Bad idea. Standard protocol is exactly what they'll expect. Besides, the nearest patrol is at least 2 hours away. So what do you suggest? Dran's tail lashed with agitation. This transport isn't armed. We don't need weapons. Arya's fingers danced across the biointerface. We just need to outrun them. Outrun 8 pirate vessels? Talrix's voice rose in pitch. That's mathematically impossible. Even if we maintain maximum speed, their intercept vectors will. Trust me, Arya interrupted. I've dealt with pirates before. She initiated a series of rapid course changes, the void steel responding with an agility that belied its appearance. The pirate vessels adjusted their trajectory accordingly, their formation tightening as they closed the distance. They're gaining, Dran reported, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Estimated intercept in 7 minutes. Prepare for emergency resonance shift, Arya said, activating a sequence of controls that had been hidden beneath a standard panel. This might feel unusual. What are you doing? Talrix asked, bioluminescent veins pulsing with alarm. Showing you what the void steel can really do. Arya placed both hands on the biointerface and closed her eyes, focusing her thoughts on the harmonic core. The connection between pilot and ship deepened, neural patterns synchronizing with the organic components of the engine. It was a sensation like nothing else, becoming one with the vessel, feeling its systems as extensions of her own body. Initiating harmonic oscillation control, she said, her voice taking on a strange resonant quality. Frequency shifting to alpha pattern. The humming of the ship changed pitch, deepening before rising to a vibration just at the edge of hearing. The stars outside the view screen blurred as the void steel surged forward with impossible acceleration. By the 7 moons, Talrix gasped, translucent skin flashing with patterns of astonishment. We're exceeding standard light speed by a factor of 3. Even Dran seemed momentarily stunned into silence, his reptilian features fixed in an expression of disbelief. For several minutes, it seemed they would escape easily. The pirate vessels fell further behind, their conventional drives unable to match the void steel's enhanced speed. Arya allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. Then the alarms blared again. What now? Dran demanded. Arya frowned at the readouts. They're deploying something. Resonance disruptors. What does that mean? Talrix asked, leaning forward to study the sensor data. Before Arya could answer, the ship shuddered violently. The harmonic hum of the engine stuttered, pitching up and down in irregular patterns. They're targeting our frequency. Arya's hands moved frantically across the controls, trying to stabilize the resonance pattern. They're using harmonic interference to disrupt our engine signature. How is that possible? Dran demanded. They shouldn't even know what kind of engines we're running. The Scarlet Shroud doesn't just steal cargo, Arya explained, fighting to maintain control as the ship bucked beneath them. They steal technology. They must have encountered bioharmonic systems before. The ship lurched again, more violently this time. Warning lights flashed across the console as the bioresonance core struggled to maintain coherence. Core harmony destabilizing, Arya reported, trying to keep the alarm from her voice. Resonance dropping below operational threshold. We're going to drop out of light speed, Talrix warned, frantically checking readings on their own equipment. At this rate of degradation, we have less than 3 minutes before complete system failure. Can we contact the Orion outpost? Dran asked, already moving toward the communication array. Request emergency assistance? Arya shook her head. We're still 2 hours from Orion at standard speed. Even if they dispatched ships immediately, they wouldn't reach us in time. The pirate vessels were closing rapidly now, their jamming technology systematically disrupting the Void Steel's bioharmonic frequency. Arya could feel the connection to the ship weakening, the neural interface becoming fuzzy and indistinct. I need to reset the resonance pattern, she decided, unbuckling her safety harness. Talrix, take the controls. Keep us on course as best you can. Where are you going? Dran demanded as she stood. To the engine core. The automated systems can't handle this kind of interference. I need to manually re-establish the harmonic point. That's too dangerous. Talrix protested. If the core is destabilizing, it's our only chance. Arya cut them off. Just keep us moving for 5 more minutes. She rushed from the cockpit, navigating the narrow corridors of the ship with practiced ease. The vibrations were growing worse, the deck plates trembling beneath her feet as the resonance pattern continued to deteriorate. At the aft section of the ship, behind 3 separate security doors, lay the heart of the Void Steel, the bioharmonic core. As Arya entered the final access code, the massive shielding door slid open to reveal a chamber unlike anything found on conventional vessels. The core resembled a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with a blue-green light that rippled and flowed like water. Surrounding it was a complex network of transparent conduits filled with a luminescent fluid that carried the resonance energy throughout the ship. Currently, the normally smooth pulses of light were erratic, stuttering and flaring in response to the pirates' jamming signals. Arya approached the central control panel, fingers flying across the interface. Diagnostic readings confirmed her fears. The pirates were using a sophisticated multi-band disruptor to create destructive interference patterns across the bioharmonic frequency spectrum. They've done their homework, she muttered, quickly analyzing the attack pattern. The disruptors were systematically cycling through frequencies, searching for the core's fundamental resonance to shut it down completely. There was only one option, a dangerous one. Arya opened a secure compartment beneath the main console, revealing a neural interface headset far more sophisticated than the simplified version in the cockpit. This was a direct link to the core, allowing for complete synchronization between pilot and ship. Her grandmother had warned her never to use it except in the most dire circumstances. The neural load could cause permanent damage if maintained too long. But they were out of alternatives. She placed the headset over her temples, feeling the cool touch of the interface nodes against her skin. Taking a deep breath, she activated the connection. The sensation was overwhelming, like diving into an ocean of light and sound. The ship's systems flooded her consciousness, raw data streaming directly into her mind. She could feel the pirates' disruptors like discordant notes in an otherwise perfect symphony, creating harsh dissonance that threatened to tear the harmonics apart. Focused with all her concentration, Arya began the delicate process of shifting the core's fundamental frequency, not away from the disruptors, but toward a state of perfect resonance that would strengthen rather than weaken under attack. It was counterintuitive, like leaning into a punch rather than away from it, but if she could establish what her grandmother had called the harmonic point, the core would become virtually immune to interference. The ship's intercom crackled to life. Arya, Talrix's voice was strained with urgency. Whatever you're doing, hurry! They're launching boarding craft. Arya barely heard the warning. Her consciousness merged so deeply with the ship that external stimuli seemed distant and irrelevant. She was the core now, feeling the disruptor's assault as attacks on her own body. With methodical precision, she began to shift the resonance frequency, nudging it higher in micro increments. The pain was immediate and intense, neural feedback as the core struggled to adapt to the new parameters. Warning systems flashed across her mental landscape, cautioning against exceeding safety thresholds. Arya pushed through the warnings, guiding the resonance upward. 792 terahertz, 8.15, 837. The pirate's disruptors adjusted, trying to match the shifting frequency. Arya pushed harder. 862, 889, 940. The pain intensified, like fire spreading through her neural pathways. The ship's automated safeguards attempted to disengage the connection, sensing the dangerous levels of feedback. Arya overrode them, continuing to push toward the theoretical harmonic point her grandmother had calculated but never dared to reach. 941, 968, 992. The disruptors were falling behind now, unable to adjust quickly enough to the rapidly shifting frequency. Arya felt a moment of triumph through the haze of pain. Then she hit the threshold. 10.0 terahertz exactly. The mathematical point of perfect harmonic resonance. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a wave of blue-green energy erupted from the core, washing over Arya and spreading throughout the ship. The sensation was indescribable, like being at the center of a silent explosion of pure harmony. In the cockpit, Talrix and Drawn watched in astonishment as the blue-green light surged through the ship's systems, flowing along pathways they hadn't even realized existed. The erratic vibrations ceased, replaced by a deep, perfect hum that seemed to resonate with their very atoms. "What's happening?" Dran demanded, staring as his scales took on a subtle blue-green sheen in the strange light. "It's some kind of bioharmonic cascade," Talrix whispered, translucent skin pulsing in sympathetic rhythm with the energy flow. The entire ship is becoming a single resonant entity. Outside, the pirate vessels had drawn close enough to deploy magnetic grapples, preparing to board the seemingly crippled transport. But as the wave of resonance energy reached the hull, something extraordinary happened. The void steel disappeared. Not through any conventional cloaking technology, but through perfect bioharmonic camouflage. The ship's vibrations synchronizing so perfectly with the background energy of space itself that sensors could no longer distinguish it as a separate entity. To the pirates' bewilderment, their target simply vanished, their grapples passing through empty space where a ship had been moments before. Inside the engine room, Arya disengaged from the neural interface, gasping as her consciousness separated from the ship. The pain receded, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion that made her limbs feel like lead. But she could feel the difference in the ship, the perfect, stable hum of a core operating at the harmonic point. She staggered back to the cockpit, finding Talrix and Dran staring at the view screen in amazement. The pirate vessels were scattered in confusion, scanning frantically for their vanished prey. "What did you do?" Talrix asked, voice hushed with awe. "Established perfect resonance," Arya replied, collapsing into the pilot's chair. "We're vibrating at exactly the same frequency as the space around us. To their sensors, we're just background radiation." "This is impossible technology," Dran muttered, reptilian eyes wide. "The Alliance has been working on bioadaptive camouflage for decades without success." "My grandmother was ahead of her time," Arya said simply. She checked the navigation display. "The effect won't last long. The core can't maintain this level of resonance indefinitely. We need to put as much distance between us and them as possible." "But they're between us and the Orion outpost," Talrix pointed out. "Even with this camouflage, they'll detect our engine signature once we move." Arya studied the tactical display, noting the positions of the pirate vessels and calculating potential routes. Then her eyes fell on a swirling mass of energy at the edge of the scanner range. "The ion storm," she said, a plan forming. If we can reach it before the camouflage fails. You want to fly into an ion storm? Dran's tail lashed with alarm. That's suicide. Not with the ship at harmonic resonance. Arya's fingers danced across the controls, plotting a course. The bioharmonic field will protect us from the worst effects, and the pirates won't be able to follow. Their conventional shields would fail within minutes. And if you're wrong? Dran challenged. Arya met his gaze steadily. Then we'll die trying to save thousands of lives on Orion, rather than surrendering the vaccines to pirates who would sell them to the highest bidder. There was a moment of tense silence. Then, to Arya's surprise, Dran gave a curt nod. Plot the course. I'd rather die fighting than surrender to the Scarlet Shroud. The bioresonance should hold for approximately 7 minutes. Talrix added, checking the core diagnostics. Enough time to reach the edge of the storm if we push the conventional drives to maximum. Then let's not waste a second. Arya engaged the thrusters, guiding the still camouflaged, void steel in a wide arc around the confused pirate vessels. The ship responded with unprecedented smoothness, the perfect resonance state enhancing every system's performance. They accelerated toward the distant ion storm, a swirling maelstrom of charged particles and electromagnetic energy that conventional ships avoided at all costs. 5 minutes until camouflage failure, Talrix reported, monitoring the core's status. The pirates still haven't detected us. 3 minutes to storm perimeter, Arya replied, hands steady on the controls despite her exhaustion. We're going to make it. But as they closed on the storm, one of the pirate vessels changed course, moving to intercept their trajectory by apparent coincidence. They've gotten lucky, Dran growled, watching the tactical display. That ship will be right on top of us when the camouflage fails. Arya studied the situation, mind racing. We need a distraction. She turned to Talrix. Can you access the cargo bay environmental controls? The Kindi nodded, fingers already moving across the engineering console. What do you have in mind? Vent a small amount of the coolant gas from the vaccine containers. Not enough to damage the cargo, just enough to create a sensor echo. Talrix's bioluminescent veins flashed with understanding. A false target? Clever. As they approached the pirate vessel, Talrix carefully vented a precisely calculated burst of coolant into space. The super-cooled gas created a momentary thermal anomaly that the pirates' sensors immediately locked onto. They've taken the bait, Dran reported as the pirate ship veered toward the dissipating gas cloud. Path to the storm is clear. The swirling energies of the ion storm loomed before them now. Brilliant colors dancing across the view screen as charged particles collided and released bursts of light. To fly into such chaos in a conventional ship would be certain death. Shields would fail. Navigation systems would go haywire, and the hull would be subjected to stresses no standard material could withstand. 1 minute to camouflage failure, Talrix warned, their skin paling with anxiety. Core resonance beginning to destabilize. We'll make it, Arya assured them, though her own heart was racing. Brace for storm entry in 30 seconds. As they closed on the storm's perimeter, the pirate vessels finally noticed their movement. Alarms blared as multiple ships changed course to intercept, but it was too late. Storm entry in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The void. Steel plunged into the maelstrom of energy, the view screen filling with a chaotic dance of colors as charged particles battered against the hull. The ship shuddered, but held together, the bioharmonic field absorbing and redistributing the storm's energy rather than trying to deflect it. It's working, Talrix exclaimed, monitoring the ship's systems with wide-eyed amazement. The resonance field is actually strengthening from the storm's energy. Behind them, the lead pirate vessel attempted to follow, only to be immediately assaulted by the storm's fury. Without bioharmonic protection, its shields flared and failed within seconds. The ship veered away, trailing sparks and debris. They can't follow, Dran said, unable to hide his relief. We've lost them. Arya allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. Now we just need to navigate through the storm, and reach Orion on the other side. The storm actually gives us a more direct route. For the next hour, she guided the Void Steel through the heart of the ion storm, using the ship's enhanced sensors to find safe passages through the worst of the turbulence. The bioharmonic field continued to protect them, absorbing the storm's energy and converting it into additional power for the ship's systems. When they finally emerged from the far side of the storm, the Orion outpost was visible in the distance, a sprawling space station orbiting a small moon. Its medical facilities the only hope for the thousands suffering from the Thalassian fever outbreak. Orion Control, this is Earth Transport Vessel, Void Steel. Area transmitted. We have emergency medical supplies aboard, requesting immediate docking clearance. The response was immediate. ETV Void Steel, this is Orion Control. You're 18 hours ahead of schedule. We've been monitoring the ion storm. How did you make it through? Special ship, special circumstances, Arya replied. The vaccines are intact and ready for distribution. Understood. Void Steel. Proceed to Emergency Medical Dock 3. Medical teams are standing by to receive the cargo. As they approached the station, Talrix placed a translucent hand on Arya's shoulder. That was remarkable piloting, and even more remarkable technology. The Alliance has underestimated Earth engineering, Dran added, giving Arya a respectful nod. And you? Arya guided the ship to the designated dock, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. My grandmother always said that the future of space travel wasn't in bigger engines or stronger hulls, but in understanding the harmonic nature of the universe itself. The bioresonance engine is just the beginning of what's possible. The docking procedure completed smoothly, and medical teams rushed aboard to secure the vaccine cargo. A station official approached Arya as she supervised the unloading. You've saved thousands of lives today, the official said, emotion evident in their voice. The outbreak was spreading faster than our models predicted. Without these vaccines, the death toll would have been catastrophic. Just doing my job, Arya replied modestly. We received a transmission from Alliance patrol vessels. The official continued. They engaged the Scarlet Shroud pirates near the ion storm. Several pirate ships were disabled, and the rest scattered. The patrols are requesting your presence once the medical emergency is resolved. Something about unconventional tactics and exceptional piloting. Arya exchanged glances with Talrix and Dran, surprised by the recognition. Perhaps things were changing in the Alliance after all. 2 days later, with the vaccine distribution well underway and the outbreak contained, the Void Steel returned to Sigma 9 Defense Station. This time, however, their reception was markedly different. A delegation of high-ranking Alliance officers awaited them at the dock, including several species Arya had rarely seen in person. The crystalline Lumari, the gaseous Varine contained in their environmental suits, and even a representative of the rarely seen Quantum Collective. Commander Vexel was there as well, his mandibles and antennae held in a posture that the translator rendered as respectful attention, rather than the dismissive amusement of their first meeting. Pilot Solus, the Lumari representative said, crystal facets catching the light as they stepped forward. The Alliance Council has reviewed the reports from Orion Outpost and the patrol fleet. Your actions saved not only the vaccine shipment, but provided valuable tactical data on the Scarlet Shroud's operations. Thank you, Arya replied, somewhat uncomfortable with the formal recognition. But I couldn't have done it without Engineer Talrix and Security Officer Dran. The Varine representative's environmental suit pulsed with colors that the translator interpreted as approval. Indeed, which is why all three of you have been commended in our report. However, there is another matter of significant interest to the Council. The bioharmonic resonance engine, Arya guessed. Precisely. The Lumari inclined their crystalline head. Such technology could revolutionize Alliance transportation and defense systems. We would like to formally request a demonstration and technical briefing. Arya hesitated. Her grandmother had been secretive about the technology for good reason. Previous attempts to share it had led to exploitation and tragedy. But perhaps times had changed. Perhaps the Alliance was ready. I would be honored to demonstrate the core capabilities, she said carefully. With certain proprietary elements protected, of course. Of course, the Lumari agreed. The Alliance respects intellectual property rights across all member species. In that case, Arya smiled. I suggest we schedule a demonstration flight. The Void Steel is best understood in action rather than theory. Over the next week, Arya conducted a series of demonstration flights for Alliance officials, showcasing the bioharmonic engine's capabilities under controlled conditions. The engineers and scientists were astonished by what they witnessed: efficiency ratings that defied conventional physics, adaptive shielding that grew stronger under attack, and maneuverability that made standard vessels seem clumsy by comparison. At the conclusion of the demonstrations, the Alliance Council convened a special session to discuss the implications of the technology. Arya was invited to attend, along with Talrix and Drawn, who had become unexpected advocates for her grandmother's work. The Council has reached a unanimous decision, the Lumari representative announced at the session's conclusion. The bioharmonic resonance technology represents a significant advancement in our understanding of space travel. We propose the establishment of a dedicated research division to explore its applications, with Pilot Solus appointed as chief consultant and project lead. And the Void Steel, Arya asked, will be officially redesignated as an Alliance special research vessel, with all the resources and protections that entails. We suggest the name Aurora Resonance, in honor of the new dawn this technology represents. Arya felt a surge of emotion, pride in her grandmother's work finally being recognized, relief that the technology would be developed responsibly rather than exploited, and excitement for the future possibilities. The Aurora Resonance, it is, she agreed. My grandmother would be honored. As the council session concluded, Commander Vexel approached Arya, mandibles clicking in what seemed like embarrassment. I owe you an apology, Pilot Solus, the Arthurian said. I allowed appearance and convention to cloud my judgment. Your ship, and you, have proven exceptional in ways I failed to recognize. Apology accepted, Commander, Arya replied graciously. First impressions aren't always accurate, on either side. The officers who wagered against your success have been assigned to waste reclamation duty. Vexel added with what the translator rendered as dry humor. I believe humans call it eating crow. Arya laughed. Something like that. As she left the council chambers, Talrix and Dran fell into step beside her. So, Chief Consultant Solus, Talrix said, bioluminescent veins pulsing with excitement. What's our first project with the new research division? I was thinking we might explore the medical applications of bioresonance. Arya replied, the way the engine harmonizes with surrounding energy could revolutionize treatment for conditions like thalassian fever. Ambitious, Dran commented, his reptilian features softening into what might have been a smile. But after what I've seen, I wouldn't bet against you. Arya glanced through a viewport at the Void Steel, now the Aurora Resonance, docked in a place of honor at the station's central hub. The ship that had once been mocked as obsolete now represented the future of the Alliance. Her grandmother had always insisted that true innovation came not from following established paths, but from finding the harmonies that others overlooked. In a universe obsessed with standardization and conformity, she had dared to listen for different rhythms, different resonances, and now, those harmonies would echo throughout the galaxy, bringing together technologies and species in ways previously unimagined, not through dominance or force, but through finding the perfect resonance between seemingly disparate elements. As Arya watched Alliance engineers approaching the ship with reverence rather than derision, she smiled. The aliens had laughed when she arrived, but now they were listening, to her, to the ship, and to the harmonic possibilities of a universe that still had so many secrets to share.